The war between the Vespidian Collective and the Arcturus Concordat had raged for over 200 years. Their massive ships and terrible weapons had destroyed countless worlds. Both sides avoided Earth and its solar system. They thought humans were too weak and simple to care about. Ambassador Alan Mitchell sat at his small desk in the corner of the Galactic Council station. At 48 years old, with gray starting to show in his dark hair, he didn't look important. Most alien representatives ignored him as they hurried through the curved hallways of the station. That was fine with Alan. Being ignored let him watch and learn. For 3 years, he had served as Earth's only diplomat to the Galactic Council. The powerful aliens treated him like a child who had wandered into an adult conversation. The Vespidians, with their hard insect-like bodies and clicking mandibles, barely acknowledged his existence. The Arcturus delegates, tall and elegant with their blue skin and forearms, sometimes nodded to him with what seemed like pity. Alan carefully wrote notes in his journal as he watched the emergency session unfold. Yesterday, Vespidian warships had attacked a neutral colony world called New Haven. The planet had been home to millions of refugees from both sides of the conflict. Now it was a burning ruin. The attack was necessary to prevent Arcturus spies from gathering information, said Supreme Commander Zexatheral, the chief Vespidian representative. His voice translator made his words sound flat and emotionless. The loss of the refugee population is regrettable but unavoidable. The Arcturus. Ambassador High Counselor Venlar stood up so quickly that her ceremonial robe swirled around her. This is an outrage. There were no military targets on New Haven. This was simple murder. Alan noticed that neither side mentioned the actual victims. They argued about strategy and rules of engagement, but not about the millions of dead civilians. He felt anger building inside him as he continued writing. His communication device beeped softly. A message from Earth. Extraction. Team en route. Prepare for immediate departure. Alan wasn't surprised. The situation at the Galactic Council was getting dangerous. With the destruction of New Haven, the war had entered a new, more brutal phase. It made sense that Earth wanted its only representative away from potential danger. He closed his journal and looked around the vast council chamber. Hundreds of alien representatives argued and shouted. Some smaller species were already leaving, evacuating before the situation got worse. Earth was doing the same thing, pulling back, staying safe, remaining uninvolved. But was that really the right choice? Alan thought about the reports he'd been sending back to Earth for years. He had documented the growing conflict, the shifting alliances, the technological capabilities of both sides. What he hadn't included in those official reports were his personal observations about the weaknesses he'd noticed in both major powers. The Vespidians were technologically impressive but rigid in their thinking. The Arcturus forces were more flexible but suffered from political infighting. Both sides made assumptions about other species based on first impressions, and both had severely underestimated humanity. His device beeped again. Captain Nicole Harris, of the United Earth Space Force, had arrived at the station to extract him. She would be at his quarters within the hour. Alan made a decision. He pulled out a fresh journal and began writing quickly. This would not be a report. This would be a speech. 3 hours later, Captain Harris found Alan still in his office, surrounded by notes and data tablets. "Ambassador Mitchell," she said sharply, "we need to leave now. The situation is deteriorating." Captain Harris was 42, with short brown hair and alert eyes that constantly scanned for threats. Her dark blue uniform bore the simple insignia of Earth's Space Force, a branch of service that the galactic powers believed was primitive and harmless. "Just a few more minutes, Captain," Alan said without looking up from his work. "We don't have a few more minutes," Nicole replied. She gestured to a screen showing security feeds from around the station. Aliens were rushing toward transport bays, some almost trampling smaller species in their panic. "Intelligence suggests the Vespidians might target this station next. They're claiming it's compromised by Arcturus agents." "And so we run," Alan said quietly. "We hide in our little corner of the galaxy and hope they continue to think we're not worth bothering with." Nicole frowned. Those are our orders, Ambassador. Earth has maintained neutrality for good reason. We're not ready to get involved in this conflict. Alan finally looked up at her. Aren't we, though? He handed her a data tablet. Nicole's eyes widened as she read the classified information. Details about Earth's secret military buildup, the technological advances hidden from galactic observers, the fleet that had been constructed in hidden facilities throughout the solar system. How do you have this information? She asked. This is beyond your clearance level. President Bennett authorized it last month, Alan explained. She wanted me to have the full picture in case. He gestured to the chaos visible on the security feeds. In case something like this happened. Nicole handed the tablet back to him. Even with these advances, we're still outmatched. Getting involved would be suicide. Would it? Alan asked. Both sides are weakened after centuries of fighting. They've grown predictable, and they've completely misjudged us because we've let them. He stood up and gathered his notes. For 3 years, I've watched these supposedly advanced civilizations make the same mistakes over and over. They destroy worlds rather than admit they might be wrong. They sacrifice millions of lives for tactical advantages, and they've ignored humanity because we didn't immediately show them our teeth. What are you planning, Ambassador? Nicole asked quietly. I'm going to address the council before we leave, Alan replied. I'm going to tell them that Earth is done watching from the sidelines. Nicole's face paled. You can't be serious. You don't have the authority to. Alan held up a small communication device displaying an authorization code and President Bennett's signature. Actually, Captain, I do. He looked out the window of his office at the swirling colors of the nebula beyond the station. With all due respect, we need to delay our departure. Humanity has been silent long enough. Nicole studied him for a long moment before nodding slowly. I'll give you 1 hour. Then we leave. Speech or no speech. Alan smiled, for the first time in days. That's all I need to change everything. Alan Mitchell walked through the crowded halls of the Galactic Council station, with Captain Nicole Harris at his side. Aliens of all shapes and sizes rushed past them, hurrying to escape the station before the situation got worse. Some gave the humans curious glances, wondering why they weren't running too. You have 45 minutes left, Nicole reminded him, checking her watch. Her hand rested on her sidearm, a standard-issue energy pistol that the aliens thought was primitive. They didn't know it contained technology reverse-engineered from both Vespidian and Arcturus weapons. It won't take that long, Alan replied. Most of the major representatives are still in the main chamber. They're too busy arguing to evacuate yet. They reached the massive doors of the council chamber. 2 galactic security officers stood guard, their 4 eyes blinking in surprise, as the humans approached. The chamber is closed for emergency session, one guard said in the common galactic language. Minor species representatives are advised to evacuate immediately. Alan smiled and held up his diplomatic badge. I have an emergency statement to deliver to the council. It concerns Earth's position on the current conflict. The guards looked at each other, confused. Earth rarely spoke at council meetings and never during emergency sessions. After a moment, they stepped aside. No one really thought humans were important enough to be a security risk. Inside, the chamber was in chaos. The circular room had hundreds of seats arranged in rising tiers, with the most powerful species at the bottom, closest to the central speaking platform. The Vespidian and Arcturus delegations occupied the largest sections, facing each other across the room. Their representatives were shouting accusations at each other. This is our chance, Alan whispered to Nicole. While they're distracted, he moved confidently down the steps toward the central platform. Nicole followed, her military training making her alert to any threats. She noticed smaller alien species watching them with surprise. Alan reached the speaking platform before anyone could stop him. He placed his hand on the activation panel and the system recognized his ambassador credentials. A soft blue light surrounded the platform, and the room's automated systems began to lower the volume of other conversations. Supreme Commander Zex Therol of the Vespidian Collective noticed first. He turned his insect-like head toward the platform, mandibles clicking in annoyance. "What is the meaning of this interruption?" he demanded, his translator making his voice boom across the chamber. "The human delegation has no standing to speak during crisis deliberations." High Counselor Venlar of the Arcturus Concordat also turned to look. Her forearms were crossed in different positions, indicating her irritation. "For once, I agree with the commander. This is not the time for minor species concerns." The chamber gradually grew quiet as everyone realized a human was standing at the central platform. Many had never seen Earth's representative speak before. Alan took a deep breath and began. "Esteemed representatives of the Galactic Council, I am Ambassador Alan Mitchell of Earth. For 3 years I have sat in this chamber and observed your deliberations. I have watched as your war has spread across the galaxy, destroying worlds and killing billions." He looked directly at the Vespidian commander. "Yesterday the Vespidian Collective destroyed the neutral world of New Haven, killing millions of refugees who had sought safety there." Commander Zexithoral's mandibles clicked rapidly. "As we have already explained, it was a necessary military action. Human opinions on galactic warfare are irrelevant. Your species barely understands interstellar travel." There were some laughs from the Vespidian delegation. Alan didn't react to the insult. "Humanity has been part of this council for only a short time by your standards," he continued. "You have judged us as primitive, weak, and unimportant. You have ignored our solar system in your war, not out of respect for our neutrality, but because you thought we weren't worth the effort." He paused, looking around the chamber. "That was your first mistake." The room grew quieter. Something in Alan's voice made the representatives pay attention. "For 50 years, since our first contact with galactic civilization, humanity has been watching and learning. While you saw us as primitive, we studied your technologies, your strategies, and your weaknesses." High Counselor Venlar leaned forward. "What is the meaning of this, Ambassador? Are you threatening the Council?" "Not threatening," Alan replied calmly. "Informing. As of this moment, by unanimous decision of Earth's united government, humanity is declaring an end to its neutrality in this conflict." The chamber erupted in noise. Some delegates laughed while others shouted questions. The Vespidian and Arcturus representatives looked at each other in confusion. Commander Zexithoral raised his armored claw for silence. "If Earth is offering to join our cause, we are not joining either side," Alan interrupted. "We are entering this war as an independent force with one goal: to end the conflict and establish lasting peace in this sector of the galaxy." Now there was real laughter from both major delegations. A human civilization trying to stop a war between the two most powerful forces in the known galaxy seemed ridiculous. "With what?" sneered an Arcturus general. "Your primitive ships, your limited weapons? You could not stand against a single battlecruiser from either of our fleets." Alan smiled. "That is your second mistake." He activated his communication device and nodded to Nicole. She pressed a button on her wrist computer. The massive view screens around the council chamber suddenly came to life, showing a live feed from just outside the station. A ship had just emerged from what the galactic powers would call impossible, faster-than-light travel. It was clearly of human design, but unlike any ship the aliens had seen before. It was sleek, dark, and bristling with advanced weapons systems. The ship's hull bore the name UES Defender and the flag of the United Earth Alliance. The chamber fell completely silent. "This is Captain William Carter of the United Earth Space Force Vessel Defender," came a voice over the communication system. "Ambassador Mitchell, we're here to escort you home. The rest of the fleet is in position as ordered by President Bennett." Alan looked at the shocked faces around him. "For decades, humanity has hidden its true capabilities. We've let you believe we were far behind you technologically. In reality, we've been preparing for this moment, the moment when your endless war threatened the stability of the entire galaxy." Commander Zexithoral stood up, his massive form towering over his aides. "This is some kind of trick. One ship cannot—" "It's not one ship," Nicole interrupted, stepping forward. "Earth has a fleet of over 100 vessels of this class, all equipped with technologies we developed by studying both your civilizations. While you were busy fighting each other, we were learning from your mistakes." Alan's voice grew harder. "Humanity is joining this war, not as a minor player but as the force that will end it. You have 2 standard galactic days to agree to a ceasefire and peace negotiations. And if we refuse? Asked High Counselor Venlar, her voice no longer dismissive. Alan's eyes were cold. Then we will demonstrate why underestimating humanity was the biggest mistake your civilizations have ever made. The Galactic Council chamber remained silent for several long seconds after Alan's ultimatum. Then, everyone started talking at once. The Vespidian and Arcturus representatives shouted accusations at each other, each side claiming the humans must be allied with their enemies. "This is an Arcturus plot!" hissed Commander Zex Thorel, his mandibles clicking rapidly in anger. "Absurd. This is clearly Vespidian deception," countered High Counselor Venlar, her blue skin darkening with emotion. Alan stood calmly at the center of the storm. Nicole leaned close to him and whispered, "We should leave now. We've delivered the message." Alan nodded. "Captain Carter will transport us directly to the Defender." They stepped off the platform together. As they walked toward the exit, representatives from smaller galactic species approached them. These were civilizations that had suffered greatly. In the crossfire of the Long War, a small, gray-skinned alien with large eyes bowed slightly to Alan. "Ambassador, I am Nex of the Tellurian worlds. If what you say is true, know that there are many who would welcome an end to this conflict, regardless of how it comes about." Alan smiled at the alien. "Thank you, Representative Nex. Earth has not forgotten the smaller voices in this galaxy." Before they could reach the exit, their path was blocked by a group of Vespidian guards, their insect-like bodies covered in battle armor, weapons held ready but not yet aimed. "Ambassador Mitchell," said a Vespidian diplomat stepping forward from behind the guards. "Supreme Commander Zex Thorel requests a private audience before you depart." Nicole moved her hand closer to her weapon. The ambassador has said all he needed to say. Alan raised his hand slightly, signaling Nicole to, "Wait, I'll speak with the commander but not privately. Captain Harris accompanies me." The Vespidian diplomat chittered softly, then nodded. "This is acceptable. Follow me." They were led to a small conference room adjacent to the main chamber. Commander Zex Thorel was already there, his massive form seeming too large for the simple room. 2 Vespidian guards stood at the door but remained outside when it closed. "You play a dangerous game, human," Zex Thorel said without preamble, his translator making his voice sound even more threatening. "If this is a bluff, it will result in the destruction of your world." "It's not a bluff," Alan replied calmly, "and I think you already suspect that." The commander's compound eyes studied Alan carefully. "We have observed Earth for decades. There have been no signs of the advanced technology you claim to possess." Alan smiled. "That was by design, Commander. We built our facilities in places you wouldn't look, deep underwater inside asteroids on the far side of our moon. We intercepted your observation probes and fed them false data." Nicole added, "Your focus on fighting the Arcturus Concordat made it relatively simple to hide our activities from you." The commander moved closer, towering over the humans. Despite his intimidating presence, neither Alan nor Nicole backed away. "Even if what you say is true, Earth cannot hope to stand against the Vespidian collective," Zex Thorel said. "We have thousands of warships, millions of soldiers. We have conquered hundreds of worlds. And yet you haven't won your war," Alan pointed out. "After centuries of fighting, you're no closer to victory than when you started. All you've done is spread destruction across the galaxy." The commander's mandibles clicked in what might have been frustration. The Arcturus are equally responsible for this conflict. And they will receive the same message, Alan assured him. "Humanity isn't taking sides. We're putting an end to a war that threatens everyone, including Earth." "With what weapons?" Zex Thorel demanded. "What technology could you possibly possess that would challenge our power?" Nicole stepped forward. "Commander, for 50 years we've been collecting debris from your battles, studying your weapons, your shields, your propulsion systems. We've learned from both your successes and your failures. And improved upon them," Alan added, "while your scientists focus solely on developing better ways to destroy your enemies." Ours looked at the bigger picture. We've developed technologies neither side has considered. The commander was silent for a moment. Then he asked, "Such as?" Alan shook his head. "You'll see demonstrations soon enough if a ceasefire isn't agreed to. 2 days, Commander. That's how long both sides have to come to their senses." Back on the UES Defender, Alan and Nicole were greeted by Captain William Carter on the bridge. Carter was tall with broad shoulders and a serious face. His uniform was crisp and the insignia on his chest showed he was one of Earth's most decorated officers. "Welcome aboard, Ambassador Captain Harris," Carter said, nodding to both of them. "I trust your message was delivered successfully." "It was," Alan confirmed, looking around the advanced bridge of the warship. Crew members worked efficiently at their stations, monitoring systems and communications. "Though I doubt either side will agree to our terms easily." "They never expected humanity to be a threat," Nicole added. The look on the commander's face, when he saw the Defender, was priceless. Carter nodded. "The Arcturus ambassador is requesting communication with you, Ambassador Mitchell, and we've received a direct message from President Bennett. She wants an update as soon as possible." "Let's speak with the President first," Alan decided. The main screen on the bridge changed to show President Laura Bennett. She was in her early 60s with short gray hair and the determined expression of someone who had guided humanity through difficult times. "Ambassador Mitchell," she greeted him formally. "I've received preliminary reports about your address to the Council. I take it things proceeded according to plan?" "Yes, Madam President," Alan replied. "Both sides were completely surprised by our announcement and the appearance of the Defender. I've given them 2 days to agree to a ceasefire." Bennett's expression was serious. "And if they refuse?" "Then we proceed to Phase 2, Alan said. "Captain Carter has the coordinates for the demonstration." Bennett nodded. "The full fleet is on standby. Admiral Jackson has positioned our forces strategically throughout the sector, still under stealth protocols. If either side attempts to threaten Earth directly, we're prepared to respond." "Do you think they'll test us?" Nicole asked. "Almost certainly," Bennett replied. "They've been the dominant powers in this part of the galaxy for too long to accept a challenge from Earth without some kind of response." She looked at Alan. "That's why the demonstration needs to be convincing. We can't afford to show any weakness. The target is an uninhabited moon in a disputed system," Carter explained. "Far enough from civilian populations to avoid casualties, but within range of both Vespidian and Arcturus observation posts. They'll both witness what our ships can do." Alan looked out the view screen at the stars. "And after the demonstration?" "We give them one more chance to come to the negotiating table," President Bennett said firmly. "This war has gone on long enough. Too many innocent lives have been lost. Humanity may be new to the galactic stage, but we have no intention of standing by while the conflict spreads further." Alan nodded. "And if they still refuse?" Bennett's eyes were hard. "Then we show them why it was a mistake to ignore Earth for so long. We have spent 50 years preparing for this moment, Ambassador. We will not hesitate to act if necessary." As the communication ended, Alan turned to Captain Carter. "Set course for Earth. We have preparations to make before the 2 days are up." "Yes, sir," Carter replied. "And the Arcturus ambassador?" "She's still waiting to speak with you." Alan thought for a moment. "Tell her I'll speak with her in 1 hour. Let her wait and wonder what else humanity might be hiding." As the Defender moved away from the Galactic Council station, Alan watched on the view screen as both Vespidian and Arcturus ships began to follow at a distance. They were watching, studying, trying to determine if humanity's claims were true or just an elaborate bluff. "They'll learn soon enough," Nicole said quietly, noticing where Alan was looking. "Yes," he agreed. "Let's just hope they're wise enough to make the right choice when they do." 2 days passed quickly. Neither the Vespidian Collective nor the Arcturus Concordat agreed to Earth's demand for a ceasefire. Instead, both sides increased their military activities, moving ships into positions that threatened Earth's solar system. Alan stood on the bridge of the UES Defender alongside Captain Carter and Nicole. They watched the main view screen as reports came in from Earth's monitoring stations throughout the sector. "They're testing us," Nicole said, studying the Tactical display. The Vespidians have moved 3 battle groups to the edge of our solar system. The Arcturus have positioned their ships near our colony on Proxima Centauri. Captain Carter nodded. Classic intimidation tactics. They still think we're bluffing. Alan checked the time. The 2-day deadline has passed. Has there been any communication from either side? The Arcturus ambassador sent a message calling our ultimatum the desperate act of a minor species seeking attention, Nicole replied. The Vespidian commander was more direct. He threatened to reduce Earth to ash if we interfere in galactic affairs. Alan sighed. So neither side is taking us seriously, despite the evidence of our technology. They've been the dominant powers for too long, Carter said. They can't imagine being challenged by a species they've dismissed as primitive. Then it's time for the demonstration, Alan decided. He turned to Carter. Captain, contact Admiral Jackson. Tell her to proceed with Operation Blackout. Carter nodded and relayed the orders. On the view screen, a strategic map showed the position of Earth's hidden fleet. Over 100 ships had been concealed throughout the sector, waiting for this moment. All ships report ready, Carter announced. Target is the uninhabited moon of Talaris in the disputed Cygnus system. Both Vespidian and Arcturus observation posts will have clear views of the demonstration. Proceed, Alan ordered. The view screen showed 5 Earth ships moving into position around the dead rocky moon. The ships were smaller than the massive battle cruisers used by the Vespidians and Arcturus forces, but their design was sleek and advanced. Ships in position, reported a young officer at the tactical station. Charging the blackout device. Nicole explained to Alan. Dr. Elizabeth Winters developed this technology based on her study of both Vespidian and Arcturus energy systems. It's unlike anything either side has seen before. On the screen, a blue energy field began to form between the 5 Earth ships, connecting them in a pentagon formation. The energy grew brighter, pulsing with increasing intensity. Energy levels at maximum, the tactical officer announced. Blackout device ready to fire. Execute, Carter commanded. A brilliant beam of blue-white energy shot from each ship, meeting at a central point before redirecting toward the moon. When the combined beam struck the surface, there was no explosion. Instead, a wave of energy spread across the moon's surface, covering it entirely in seconds. Blackout complete, reported the tactical officer. All energy signatures on the moon have been neutralized. Alan watched as data appeared on a secondary screen. Explain the results for me, Captain. Carter nodded. The blackout device doesn't destroy physical matter. Instead, it neutralizes all energy within the target area. Any technology within that zone is completely disabled. Weapons, shields, propulsion systems, even simple electronic devices, all rendered useless. Could it be used against a planet? With living beings? Alan asked. No, Nicole answered. The device is calibrated to affect only technology. It has no effect on biological organisms. That was Dr. Winters' primary concern when developing it, creating a weapon that could end a conflict without causing loss of life. Alan nodded with satisfaction. Perfect. And the effect is temporary? Yes, Carter confirmed. Depending on the settings, the neutralization lasts anywhere from 6 to 72 hours. More than enough time to force a ceasefire without permanent damage. The view screen changed to show incoming transmissions from both Vespidian and Arcturus commands. They had witnessed the demonstration. Open a channel to both, Alan instructed. Let's see if they're ready to talk now. The screen split to show Commander Zex Therrell and High Counselor Venlar. Both looked disturbed by what they had witnessed. What, have you done? Demanded Zex Therrell, his mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. We've demonstrated just one of Earth's new technologies, Alan replied calmly. The blackout device can neutralize all energy systems within its target zone. As you've seen, it can affect an entire moon. It could just as easily disable a fleet of warships. High Counselor Venlar's forearms moved in patterns indicating extreme concern. This technology violates all principles of galactic warfare. That's exactly the point, Alan replied. Earth isn't interested in following the rules of a war that has destroyed hundreds of worlds and killed billions of innocent beings. We're interested in ending that war. He leaned forward slightly. Imagine this technology deployed against your home worlds, not to destroy them, but to completely neutralize your military capabilities. No ships, no weapons, no shields, nothing. Both alien leaders were silent, considering the implications. You now have 12 hours to agree to a ceasefire and begin peace negotiations, Alan continued. If you refuse, we will deploy the blackout device against your primary fleet staging areas. You've seen that we have the capability. You've seen that we're willing to use it. This is blackmail, hissed Zextheral. This is peace enforcement, Alan corrected. Something the Galactic Council should have done centuries ago before your war spread across half the galaxy. He nodded to Carter, who ended the transmission. Do you think they'll agree? Nicole asked. They don't have a choice, Alan replied. Their entire military strategy depends on energy weapons and shields. The blackout device makes those useless. They can't fight if they can't power their weapons. Carter looked concerned. But the blackout isn't our only option. If they still refuse, let's hope it doesn't come to that. Alan interrupted. The blackout device is non-lethal. Our other technologies aren't as merciful. 6 hours later, Alan, Nicole, and Captain Carter were summoned to President Bennett's office at the United Earth Government headquarters in Geneva. They found the president reviewing reports with Admiral Jackson, a tall woman with dark skin and short gray hair who commanded Earth's space fleet. Ambassador, President Bennett greeted them. Your demonstration was most effective. We've received official communications from both the Vespidian Collective and the Arcturus Concordat. They've agreed to a temporary ceasefire and are willing to begin peace negotiations. Alan smiled. That's excellent news, Madam President. Don't celebrate just yet, Admiral Jackson cautioned. Our intelligence suggests they're stalling for time. Both sides are researching countermeasures to the blackout device. They've agreed to talks, but they haven't given up on their war. President Bennett nodded grimly. Which is why we need to move quickly. Ambassador Mitchell, I'm appointing you as Earth's chief negotiator. You know these species better than anyone else on our planet. I'll do my best, Alan promised. But they won't surrender their ambitions easily. They don't need to surrender, Bennett replied. They just need to understand that continuing their war is no longer an option. Earth won't allow it. Nicole looked at the strategic display showing the positions of ships throughout the sector. They still outnumber us, Madam President. If they decide to unite against Earth instead of fighting each other, then we'll show them what else we've been developing for the past 50 years, Admiral Jackson finished. The blackout device is just the beginning of what Earth can do. President Bennett's expression was determined. We didn't want this role, but we've prepared for it. Humanity will bring peace to the galaxy one way or another. 3 months had passed since Earth's dramatic entrance into the galactic conflict. The peace negotiations were taking place on neutral ground, a space station orbiting Earth's moon. Both the Vespidian Collective and the Arcturus Concordat had sent their top diplomats, though neither side was happy about the situation. Alan Mitchell walked through the station's main corridor with Nicole Harris beside him. Earth security personnel lined the walls, alert and professional in their blue uniforms. How are the talks progressing today? Nicole asked as they headed toward the main conference room. Alan sighed. Slowly, as usual. The Vespidians are demanding control of the Orion sector. The Arcturus insist it belongs to them. Neither side wants to give an inch. After 200 years of fighting, old habits die hard, Nicole observed. They reached the conference room doors. Inside, representatives from 27 species were seated around a large circular table. The Vespidian and Arcturus delegations sat on opposite sides, as far from each other as possible. Ambassador Mitchell called out Sub-Commander Kexaval, the lead Vespidian negotiator. Perhaps you can explain to the Arcturus representatives that their claims to the Orion mining colonies are baseless. High Minister Talvin of the Arcturus Concordat immediately rose from her seat, her blue skin flushing purple with anger. Those colonies were established by our people centuries ago. After you drove our settlers from the region by force, Kexaval countered, his mandibles clicking rapidly. Alan took his seat at the table and raised his hand for silence. Over the past months, the alien representatives had learned to respect his authority, even if reluctantly. "We've been over this territory dispute 16 times, Alan said calmly but firmly. "As I've explained repeatedly, under the new Galactic Peace Accord, the Orion sector will be administered by a joint council with representatives from both your governments, as well as from the native species of those worlds." He looked around the table. "This is non-negotiable. Earth will not allow either side to claim exclusive control over disputed territories. That approach is what led to this war in the first place." The room fell silent. Some of the smaller species, representatives nodded in agreement. They had suffered the most as their worlds became battlegrounds in the long conflict. "And if we refuse this arrangement?" asked Kexaval, his voice low and threatening. Alan met the Vespidian's compound eyes, without flinching. "Then Earth will enforce it. We've already established monitoring stations throughout the disputed regions. Any attempt to take control by force will be met with the full power of Earth's fleet." High Minister Talven made a gesture of frustration, with all four of her arms. "You speak of peace, Ambassador, yet you threaten us with your weapons." "I speak of justice," Alan corrected her. "And yes, we are prepared to enforce it. Earth did not develop the blackout device and our other technologies, just to watch your two empires continue destroying worlds." Nicole, standing behind Alan's chair, added, "We've already demonstrated our capabilities. Both your governments have verified that you cannot develop effective countermeasures to the blackout technology in the foreseeable future." The room was tense for several long moments. Then a small, green-skinned alien raised his hand. This was Representative Zorlan of the Mithrin Alliance, one of the smaller but respected powers in the galaxy. "If I may speak," Zorlan said in his musical voice. "For generations, the smaller worlds of this galaxy have suffered under the shadow of this war. Our planets have been invaded, our resources stolen, our people killed, all to fuel a conflict that has long since lost its original purpose." He looked directly at the Vespidian and Arcturus representatives. "Earth has done what none of us could do. They have forced you both to the negotiating table. Perhaps instead of resisting their terms, we should be grateful that someone finally had the power and the will to stop this madness." Murmurs of agreement came from the representatives of other small worlds. The Vespidian and Arcturus delegations looked uncomfortable. Alan smiled at Zorlan, then addressed the entire room. "Earth does not seek to rule the galaxy or to replace the Galactic Council. We only want peace. A lasting peace based on cooperation and respect for all species, not just the most powerful ones." He stood up and activated the room's holographic display, showing a map of the galaxy with various sectors highlighted in different colors. "This is our proposal for the final peace agreement," he explained. "Disputed territories will be jointly administered. Demilitarized zones will be established between your core worlds. Trade routes will be open to all species, and Earth will maintain monitoring stations throughout the galaxy to ensure the peace is kept." High Minister Talven studied the map carefully. "And what does Earth gain from this arrangement?" "Safety for our world and colonies," Alan replied, simply. "The ability to develop our civilization without the threat of your war spilling into our territory, and the satisfaction of knowing we helped end centuries of needless bloodshed." The negotiations continued for several more hours before adjourning for the day. As the representatives filed out of the room, Commander Zexatheral of the Vespidian Collective entered. He had arrived at the station that morning but had not participated in the talks directly. "Ambassador Mitchell," he said, approaching Alan. "I would speak with you privately." Alan nodded to Nicole, who reluctantly left them alone in the conference room. "What can I do for you, Commander?" Alan asked. Zexatheral's massive form seemed somehow less intimidating than it had 3 months ago when they first spoke on the Galactic Council station. "I have reviewed the final peace proposal," the commander said. "It is not what we would have chosen, but it is acceptable." Alan tried not to show his surprise. "I'm glad to hear that. Will the collective officially sign the accord?" "Yes," Zextheral confirmed. "Our leadership has come to understand that continuing the war is no longer viable. Your blackout technology has changed the equation." The commander moved closer. But know this, human. We will not forget that Earth forced this peace upon us. One day, perhaps not in your lifetime or mine, but one day, we may find a way to counter your advantage. Alan met the alien's gaze calmly. By that time, Commander, I hope our peoples will have built something together worth preserving rather than destroying. 2 weeks later, representatives from over 100 galactic civilizations gathered on Earth for the signing of the Galactic Peace Accord. The ceremony took place in the Grand Hall of the United Earth Government Building in Geneva, with President Bennett presiding. As Alan watched the Vespidian and Arcturus leaders reluctantly sign the document, he felt Nicole's hand on his shoulder. "We did it," she said quietly. "You did it." Alan shook his head. "It's just the beginning. Signing a peace agreement is one thing. Building a lasting peace is much harder." "But it is possible now," said Dr. Elizabeth Winters, joining them. The creator of the blackout device looked tired but satisfied. "For the first time in centuries, it's possible." President Bennett approached them after the ceremony. "Ambassador Mitchell, the galaxy owes you a debt of gratitude, as does Earth." "I just delivered the message, Madam President," Alan replied modestly. "It was the work of thousands, our scientists, our military, our leaders, that made this possible." Bennett smiled. "Nevertheless, history will remember your name. The diplomat who shocked the galaxy and changed it forever." Alan looked out the window at the clear blue sky of Earth. Somewhere up there, ships from dozens of alien civilizations orbited peacefully for the first time in generations. "I just hope they remember why we did it," he said quietly. "Not to show our strength, but to create a galaxy where strength alone doesn't determine who survives and who doesn't. A galaxy where Earth and every other world can thrive together." Nicole smiled. "They'll remember. And if they start to forget, we'll remind them," Alan finished, watching as former enemies cautiously began speaking to each other across the hall. A new era had begun, and humanity would help shape it for generations to come.